Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video, the last one of 2021. Now, those of you who know me well will know I am a massive fan of Halo and the Halo universe. But what you may not know is that there's been an incredibly cryptic mystery hidden under our noses for the last 14 years. That's right, we're jumping back to Halo 3. But trust me, this ties into recent releases such as Halo Infinite. Back in the year 2007, Halo 3 launched to possibly one of the greatest receptions in gaming history. Now, if you're a Halo fan, you will know that the world is full of mysteries. Bungie intentionally hide Easter eggs and mysteries in all of their games. Now, despite Halo game files being fully accessible and people being able to rummage through them, some of these mysteries and Easter eggs have taken years for people to find out how to activate them. Which brings us to today's topic, the Sandtrap text mystery. Halo 3 was such an iconic game that many people will fondly remember the map Sandtrap. Not because it was a beautiful map, but because it was an absolute riot to just rampage round on a warthog in this big team battle map. Aside from that, it was a pretty boring map. Now, not too long after, something was discovered that circulated in the Halo lore community. It was this text. Now, at a glance, this just seems like a texture that was used to add some decoration to the otherwise bland Sandtrap. And to the untrained eye, and to anyone who doesn't understand how Bungie operate, you'd be forgiven for thinking that. However, a year after release of Halo 3, one of the developers confirmed that this in fact is a mystery that can be solved. That this text was added with purpose. Now, back in the day, as a kid, I was interested in this and interested in finding what this text means, because the area of Sandtrap is not insignificant. In fact, it's very significant. Sandtrap is located on the Ark, which is a very lore-heavy area in the Halo universe. It was an ancient Forerunner installation. Now, the Forerunners are sort of like the ancient race of Halo, and a lot of the mystery in Halo comes from them. However, throughout the entire saga of Halo, the Forerunner have kind of been this mysterious force. People have never really fully understood them, and anything to do with Forerunner is just shrouded in mystery. The community as a whole still really don't know much about them. Now, despite this mystery being known about for 14 years, it is still unsolved. So, as I said earlier, to the untrained eye, this may just seem like a texture. It's 12 rows of glyphs, and at a glance it seems like it's just 3 lines mirrored 4 times. However, recently, people have started looking into it deeper, and it turns out that they aren't 3 lines of glyphs copied 4 times. They actually have differences on each of the lines. Now, there are many people doing amazing work to try and decipher this and uncover the mystery behind it, such as Red Nomster, who in fact is the reason that I made this video. Despite knowing about this Sandtrap mystery for 14 years, this completely reignited a fire inside of me. The sheer realization that this mystery is still a mystery 14 years after young Callum found out about this mystery, well, that's truly mind-blowing. Now, you might be wondering why I'm covering it on this channel. And the reason is purely this. A lot of smart communities have come together and discovered extra things about these glyphs and this ancient text. Now, my community is mostly made up of game developers, programmers, computer scientists, and lots of other smart people. And I feel if anyone can help towards solving this mystery, it's you guys. Now, most people have come at this from a lore point of view. However, I think there's better ways to tackle this mystery, coming at it from a game developer/programmer point of view. So, let me give you a quick breakdown on what we're actually looking at here. This is ancient Forerunner text. Well, it's technically pre-Forerunner, because based off some sort of lore, the Forerunner don't fully understand this themselves, but they worship this text as if it was the 10 Commandments. That's evident based on the fact that this exact same texture throughout 3 different Halo games has been used. Not a remake of this texture, this exact texture It has been upscaled to 4K in some circumstances, but it shows that the actual texture itself is important. So, let me break down what we're looking at here exactly. This script is made up of a few different elements. Highlighted in blue are some letters that seem to be flipped in different orientations and mirrored depending on which line they're on and whereabout on the line they appear. In red, we have some sort of digital clock numbering lettering system made up of either complete letters or partially complete letters. In blue, we have what seem to be traditional letters. Now, again, these are partially broken up in some places and in others are complete. And then in yellow, we have what people are referring to as corruption. This seems to be where text was, but has been obfuscated by a corrupt texture. This is evident as some of these corruption lines have bits of text that are visible. It is also possible that these are symbols, but honestly, at this point, that's just guessing. Now, this seemed entirely pointless and a waste of time endeavour to follow through anything with this whole texture. However, recent discoveries have shown that if you flip some of these lines down onto the previous lines, they actually stack up these letters to complete whole letters. And more importantly, the digital letters stack up and combine to make completely readable letters, depending on which way you flip the image. Now, by flip it, I want you to imagine that it's a printed piece of paper and you are folding it in half, but the paper is semi-transparent and you can see where they overlap, sort of like tracing paper. Now, while a lot of these images seem to be the same 3 repeated lines or same 6 repeated lines, when you fold the image completely in half from top to bottom, there are differences in this, meaning it's not just a lazy texture that repeats. There are different letters that are visible on each line. Now, there's a recent belief in the lore-finding and myth-busting community that the way to solve this cryptic cipher is by folding the image, and if you get the correct sequence of folds, it will read in plain text. Now, I don't quite believe that that's the answer, or at least not the whole answer. I think that this is a 2-part problem. I believe the text that we're supposed to read as the final paragraph will be these digital pieces, and that the regular letters will fold in a separate way to provide a key, sort of like a lookup table, so you can see what letter translates into what letter or letters. I also believe that the corruption isn't corruption. I believe that that is actually word spacing, whether it be to mark spaces in sentences, the end of a sentence, or the end of a paragraph, essentially making it a 3-part puzzle. Over the last few days, many people in Discords, such as my own and Red Nomsters, which, by the way, I will be using a lot of his footage in the background as he's done fantastic work on this, and if this is something that interests you, you should absolutely go and subscribe to him. He's a super nice guy, and he really is a digital archaeologist at this point. Now, I said we were going to tackle the solution to this in a game developer's / programmer's point of view. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, for starters, somebody in my Discord the other day pointed out something that is in fact very, very relevant. It's quite hard to see, but if you get the game files and you enlarge them in Photoshop, all across this texture, there are dirt smears behind it, just to give added detail to make it, worthy of being an actual texture in a game. Now, I don't believe that's part of the puzzle at all. It shouldn't be, right? It doesn't make any sense. However, on the very top line, there are about 10 dirt smears that are all spaced very evenly, going from left to right. And they're all spaced perfectly. Pixel perfect. However, I believe when somebody was making this cipher and they were doing the necessary folds to make it work, they forgot about this repeating texture in the background. Because on other lines, it repeats for maybe half a line and then doesn't. Then it is upside down, then it is not present. I believe this was a mistake in the making of the texture that might lead to a possible solution for it. Because let's just say that the developer forgot that that is a remaining piece of this texture that shows orientation. And if they've then reversed the orientation and mirrored it for separate lines, we can essentially by brute forcing different combinations of folds, we can keep doing this until all of these textures in the background line up. Now, I'm not smart enough to do that by myself, but I believe if this is an avenue that people start to pursue, we might get answers to this a lot quicker than we would otherwise. This seems to be a large origami puzzle that will only be solved when people start to think about this from a logical standpoint. While I believe lore plays a heavy part in this, I don't believe lore is the solution to this. There seems to be very consistent word spacing and letter spacing that allow for this to be solved using this method. On screen, I'm going to show an example of where folding the texture reveals extra symbols that weren't there in the original 2 separations. Let's take this as a quick example. Let's take the 6 lines at the top and the 6 lines at the bottom. At a glance, they do indeed look like they are the exact same texture, but I'm going to point out some areas where there are extra symbols on one or less symbols on the other. Now, I took a deeper dive into how Halo 3's textures were made, and almost all of them are done in the same way that we do them today, procedurally. They will procedurally generate a background texture and a foreground texture and merge them together. This is very commonplace in game development, and it still is today. This is why the distortion of the background texture makes this even more compelling, because somebody went out of their way to take an already procedurally generated texture and further edit it, no longer making it procedural. This is a huge telltale sign that there is a mystery that has been encoded into this by the developers, aside from the fact that they already admitted that that is in fact the case. I'm willing to bet that once we put the smartest of our community to the task, we'll figure something out quite quickly. Aside from these discoveries, the community is at a bit of a dead end. With everybody thinking of this as a cipher that needs to be solved, me and some people have even run these patterns of symbols through software to see if there is in fact any pattern. And here's the interesting thing. There is not. Because originally there was a theory that maybe they procedurally generated the texture and then added an additional layer of procedural generation for the text on top of the background texture. So that is practically debunked at this point, and we are now at the theory that absolutely everything on this was hand-placed and meticulously crafted to read as something. It could be reading the differences between these and figuring something else out, or it could be the previously mentioned theory of folding the image, which I believe to be the more likely of the two. Now, for anyone who's sat there thinking, that's super complicated, this would not be a solution that developers would add to a problem in the game. And I disagree. Bungie and 343 know that their community are incredibly smart, and every instance that they've added of a mystery that has to be solved, they've tried to make harder and harder. As I've previously said, some mysteries have gone unfound for years, but with a bit of cryptography added into this one was sure to last a while. And with it not being in plain text and more of an image, with text in it that is distorted and in no known font that we can find, this is one that can't be brute forced instantly, meaning people actually have to solve this. Now, this is as deep as my knowledge on this goes, but it's something that I felt was absolutely worth sharing with you guys. As you guys all know me very well, I love a rabbit hole. I love a good mystery. And if this one can be solved in the coming months, this will have been the biggest mystery in gaming, full stop. Now, this text also appeared on a map called Epitaph, and what makes this even more interesting is that the developers added it to keep the mystery alive and to keep the search going. They added a further 3 lines of cryptic text. Now, here's the interesting part. It is not the same as this texture. They're using the same symbols, they are using the same numbers, and they are using the same corruption, but they've remade the texture for this map. It recently appeared in Halo Infinite as well, which is what sparked the revival of this mystery. This text appeared in a room where there is even hidden dialogue about a great evil being hidden and buried on the Zeta Halo. Now, Sandtrap is essentially a burial ground, based on the fact it is now buried, and is a long-forgotten installation. All the signs are coming together, but I'm not going to go too in-depth about that. Again, if you want the lore behind this, check out Red Nomster. He's done a fantastic job of documenting this, and I'm sure he's going to continue doing that. With that said, I have opened a channel in my Discord specifically for this mystery. And after today's live stream, we're going to be hanging out in the Halo voice channel, and we're going to see if we can come up with any new theories or breakthroughs that can help speed up the solving of this mystery, or even give us some hints from a cryptographic standpoint on how it can be solved. Ladies and gents, I hope you have a fantastic New Year's Eve. I am in isolation, so I am going to be live tonight. So if you're interested, head over to Twitch, come join me after this video premieres. We'll chat some more about this, play some chill games, and just hang out and welcome in the new year. As always, everybody, have a fantastic day and an awesome week, and I will see you in the next one.